What's up, guys? Ben here, bringing you another video today. Week 3, the final week of the Major 2 qualifiers, is starting up on Friday. Let's dive in our predictions. A critical week for some teams as they're sitting on the bubble, and depending on how they do this weekend, they can either be starting in winner's bracket or they can be pulling up Friday the event, having to win or go home. Let's dive in. All right, so my pick'ems the last 2 weeks have been so let's see if we can kick it on from here and do a much better job going forward. First up, we have London versus Florida. I believe Florida currently 1 and 2 in the qualifiers, and they have 2 matches this week. Not had the greatest of qualifiers so far. They are also 1 and 3, actually, not 1 and 2 for them. So they've got to win this match to really have a chance to even have a possibility of getting into winners. And Florida obviously has the Boston match. We'll get to that later. Also going this match, Florida has made a roster change with Dave Patty coming in for Brack. So what do I think of this matchup? Well, London has really only played like 1 good series in this qualifier, and it was the game that Maddie, aka Scraps, was frying. And Florida's like the better search team. Do I think he's gonna go to game 5? Like, trust either of these teams to like win a hard point? I'm going to say Florida 3-2. This one could be an absolute heater to start. And if we get to a game 5, I trust Florida more than London. So let's go with that. I'm actually curious to see. Fans are pretty split too. They got mostly Florida, but barely. So I think we're in line with the thinking there. All right, next up, we have a series that I don't think will be so close to New York Subliners versus the Vegas Legion. And unfortunately for Vegas, I don't think we need to spend too much time on this one. New York is the better team, but have struggled in S&D so far during this qualifier. I'm going to take a look at their map record right now. And they won that search against Thieves on a CeeLo in the first match day of the qualifiers, but since then, they haven't won a search. So I'm going to give 1 search to Vegas because they are an elite team, but they have no chance in the respawns against New York, and I got New York taking this in 4. And then finally on Friday, our final match is LAG versus the Atlanta FAZE. I call this the Jet Ski Bowl. If you guys don't know who Fernando is, Jet Ski's a streamer, but he hangs out a lot with like Alec and Abizi and Joe Deceives. So like that whole friend group's now like playing each other in a match. Hence why I call it the Jet Ski Bowl. People are curious. And by the way, it's Jet Ski with 2 T's. I saw someone in one of my comments do like jet ski, like 2 words. It's jet ski. Anyway, this one's an interesting one. When the Academy boys played FaZe at Major 1, this one went the distance. And on top of that, you know, FaZe has been kind of iffy in hardpoint. As of late, I feel like they're probably getting a better spot in this matchup. But that would be like the one game mode that I think LAG's got an advantage in this one. So it kind of puts me in a weird spot on what I want to do here. I'm thinking this might go to 5, but the only problem for me and why I think if FaZe kind of win like 1 hard point in this series, it might be kind of iffy is I think they're way better at search than LAG is. They're gonna have a better map pool. And on top of that, I don't think that LAG has been particularly good in control. So if FaZe take like map 1, map 2, this is a 3-0. If FaZe go like 1-1, I see this can be ending in 4. So I'm going to go ahead with FaZe 3-1, but I can see like if FaZe is still struggling in hard point, I can see this going to 5. I definitely trust FaZe way more than trust LAG to close this series out in 5. I think the only game 5 so far that LAG with this team has faced was a game 5 against Florida that they lost pretty handily on Fortress S&D. So that's what I'm thinking there, but this one could be interesting. No 3-0s. I have right now on the board on Friday, although I think New York and Vegas could be a 3-0 if New York somehow win. Searching that one. All right, let's move on over to Saturday. Obviously, as always with Saturdays, we get 4 matches. And by the way, before we advance, I'm so confident on this New York Vegas thing, we're boosting this because I don't see how New York lose that one. Starting off on Saturday, we have LAG versus Toronto. Obviously, we get 4 matches on Saturdays, 3 on Friday and Sunday. Now, this one could be a big one for LAG. If FaZe do beat them on Friday, they're going to be sitting at 2-2 in the qualifiers and probably want to win this one versus Toronto to guarantee their spot. Now, I think Toronto is going to be coming in angry because they absolutely did not play particularly good against OPTIC. I think they're going to want to take revenge for this one. Toronto's been one of the informed teams, and prior to that loss, I think the only map they had lost was in a CeeLo search against Florida. Unfortunately for the LAG squad, I think Toronto's going to match up with them well in the hard points. I will give LAG probably like map 1 or something like that. We'll say a gentleman's 3-1, but I could see that one being a 3-0. And I see Toronto coming in, taking care of business, finishing 4-1 in these qualifiers and getting a top seed because they've been on a roll outside the OPTIC series. Speaking of OPTIC, we have them versus the Vegas Legion. A bit of a fun one. I think for OPTIC, as good as they've been playing in Respawn, they've got this match and they've got FaZe, so they're going to play 2 really good search teams this week. We'll see how that game mode is suiting them against better opposition in regards to that mode. Obviously, Italy's been playing really good, so I kind of like across the board the talent matchup here for Optic compared to Vegas. It's just a big mismatch. Fortunately for Vegas, like especially they lose to New York, I think they might kind of break down a little, and I think Optic's going to take this one 3-0. I just don't see a path for Vegas on this, and I think the fan base, yeah, 90-10, I think they're kind of thinking the same thing. All right, keeping it moving and grooving, we got Florida versus Boston, and this one is a massive one potentially for Florida. A lot of the picks are on Boston, and I could kind of see why. You know, Boston's just significantly the better respawn team. In the past, like these are matches that Boston handles pretty good. The only thing with Boston that I will keep saying in some of these matchups, though, is if I pick them to go to 5, I can't trust Boston in a game 5. Now, these teams have not played so far this year, and historically, I think Florida has won the last 2 matchups at the end of last season, but before that, Boston won the last couple. And a lot of them had gone to 5, but this is last year, last game. And I think Boston's a much improved respawn team. So I am going to pick Boston and win this one 3-1. I do not want to pick this one 3-2. It could go game 5, and I like me picking Boston in game 5 is just like, I can't do it. So I have Boston getting this done for, because I'm really worried if it goes to that 5th game. Like Boston's 0-4 in game 5 this year. Like it's not, they have a problem closing out series. So they got to win this one. We'll talk about why here in a second. All right, finishing things off on Saturday, we got the New York Subliners versus a slumping Seattle Surge. I mean, Seattle's been really poor. Just in general, I think the predictions kind of favor New York on this one. Can't really trust Seattle to win searches. We haven't seen a lot of them because they only, I believe, had 1 match day last week. So not a lot coming out of that camp. And I think this is going to be a struggle major for them. They've only played 3 series. So if they win this one and they beat Rocker on Sunday, they can still make it to winners. And that would be an accomplishment. But I think New York's going to be too strong for them. I'm going to say it's a 3-0, unfortunately, for Seattle. I want to give them a map, but I just don't see it against a New York team. It's really been kind of firing on all cylinders, to be honest. I mean, they've had some pretty solid wins. The FAZE series was a funky one, but FAZE is a good team. Outside of that, I think New York's in cruise control. And they finish off their major going 4-1, should be pretty good. Top seed right there. All right, we're moving on to Sunday. And we've got Seattle versus Minnesota. And this one is a massive one for both teams. Hypothetically, if Seattle somehow beats New York by the grace of something on Saturday and they win this one, Seattle could back themselves into major winners bracket contention. For Rocker, they're currently sitting at 2-2. And so depending on how tiebreakers kind of work on Sunday, they're going to need a couple of maps. They're going to need a win here. So a massive one for both teams. Taking a look at the fan predictions, most of the predictions are on Seattle, and it looks like Minnesota has dominated the series, at least in recent memory. And this one's kind of hard, man. Like I'm not really sure how to pick this series because Rocker are really slow starters in games 1 and 2. I can't trust Seattle to win an S&D. So I guess we can just assume that this thing is going to go game 5 because Rocker have been probably like one of the best control teams. Whereas Seattle in that game has been good, but not great. But they are one of the best hardpoint teams. So I'm going to go then with Rocker in a game 5. Seattle, again, I can't trust them to win searches. I think the only game 5 they won, I believe, was on land. So we'll go with that in a pretty good one to start the day on Sunday. All right, keeping it moving, we got the Boston Breach versus the LA Thieves. And fan predictions have this one 69-30 for Thieves, which is very weird. I'm actually a little surprised that it's that lopsided. You know, I kind of feel for people that this is a big match for Boston. Again, like if they lose to Florida, they're in a really kind of almost a little bit of a must-win spot. Again, depends on tiebreakers. The problem with tiebreakers is that I can't really predict them this far out in the future, especially if we're getting 3 or 4 team tiebreakers at 3-2, 2-3. It gets a little bit complicated between map count between the groups. The problem a little bit with this qualification process is it gets even a little bit murky when we start the week. So Boston's going to need something out of Thieves, likely in this series. The problem with this series is I don't know what kind of Thieves team we're going to get. Supposedly Kenny is back in practice, and obviously they have until Sunday to play, but that's also a curse and a blessing because you want the reps and waiting until Sunday for a big match. Considering the position that they're in, currently at 1-3, like they need to win this one and win this one bad. And then my knock on Boston is always with them. Are they a good team, or are they just a team that's like really good at playing, you know, opposition that's not on their talent level and respawn, but against better teams, they get their mistakes punished. They play differently. They play slower. They are not that good in the clutch and search. A lot of questions about Boston going into this upcoming major that they're going to host. But here's the other issue with this series, which is, again, normally when I think this is going to go to game 5, I would pick the team that's better in search. The problem is I don't think either team is that good in search right now. So I don't really know, like, this is such a hard matchup for me to predict, because I don't think either team is coming in like amazing form. Maybe Boston's the best, but I don't really see them getting to 5. You know, we're going to be a little bit crazy, because I would think that Boston's best win condition is to maybe get this done in 4. We're going to give big Boston 3-1, but I've got zero confidence in this series, man. Like, I don't know how to read either team, and I'm just going to maybe put more my prediction in Boston just because they have this series before, whereas Steve's going to be coming in a little bit cold, not having played a match with Kenny for, you know, over 2 weeks. So, all right. And the last match of the Major 2 qualifiers, our last match on Sunday, is going to be FaZe versus OPTIC. This one's always a banger. Last year, OPTIC dominated this matchup, although FaZe won the last edition. I think both teams are coming in interesting form, and they're obviously very talented squads. This is one that I'm hoping we see more of this season, with both teams kind of doing this at LAN, because the environment would be crazy. I think OPTIC right now is probably the more informed hardpoint team. S&D's kind of a push likely between these two squads, although I think FaZe is a little bit more practiced in that game mode. And I would say, you know, in general in the past, when we've seen these two teams and XEO versus the Tiny Terrors play search, like, it's really high level gameplay, some of the best search you're going to see. And then when it comes to control, weirdly enough, this one's been kind of a mixed bag a little bit for OPTIC this season. They're, I believe, 2-1 on it so far in the major qualifier, whereas FaZe have been pretty good in control, and they had a nice comeback on a hotel control against New York. So overall, I think this kind of is another sort of coin flip series, and the difficulty in this is obviously FaZe beat LAG, OPTIC beat Vegas. Like, they're both sitting on 3-4 wins coming in this series, feeling pretty good for winners bracket. So, like, you go in this matchup and it's like, well, we want the 10 points, we want to win, but like, how much of this are we going to dedicate to showing our stuff that we've got saved up for the majors, using like key spots? All of that factors into kind of like a rivalry match like this. So very curious to see how this one plays out. I'm just trying to think in 5 who I really trust in this one. OPTIC had one game 5 win this major, so did FaZe. And I think the only thing that may want me to lean FaZe on this one is I've seen a lot of OPTIC on Embassy S&D. I think FaZe is also pretty good at that map. And I think on paper, I think the extra practice that FaZe have probably give them the edge in a game 5. But who knows, man? A lot of stuff goes out the window in this matchup. And I think this could be a classic to finish out the Major 2 qualifiers. And I wouldn't be surprised if we see this matchup again, hopefully at some point at Boston, at Dallas, blah, blah, blah. Yeah, these are my predictions. I feel pretty good about the Friday slate. I feel much better about Saturday. I think Sunday is one of those weird days that is like almost entirely toss-up matches. I can't remember a CDL match day that was like this, where, I mean, Minnesota should beat Seattle, but, you know, you never know. And especially their start of the series kind of struggles. Boston and Thieves is like a coin flip. And so is FaZe and OPTIC. So we could have a really good weekend ahead of us in terms of CDL stuff. Obviously, I'll be streaming, so make sure you tune in for that, all the watch party goodness. Let me know in the comments what you guys think of these predictions. Like if you enjoyed the video, subscribe for more. Next week, we're going to have obviously sort of a tier list video on Monday breaking down all of these results. And then Tuesday and Wednesday, we'll probably do some preview content for the major. I think maybe Tuesday's video might be like a what every team needs to work on type video. And then Wednesday will be sort of a bracket prediction piece for you. And then I got to figure out what I'm going to do on Thursday and Friday. I haven't quite figured that out yet, but that's what I've had for you guys next week on the channel. As always, guys, we will see you on the next one.